Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over the grayscale trusts. With that being said, let's get it. All right, so we're going to start with LTCN, but before I do that, I just want to show you guys here that it does appear that crypto does seem to be having some kind of slight sell-off. Not really sure what's going on here. It could be liquidations. It could be a whale selling Bitcoin, a country selling Bitcoin. We really don't know. I tried to look into it, couldn't find much of anything. So. Anyways, there was a comment asking, what was it? Something about share dilution of a certain grayscale trust or something like that. And I responded that basically, look, Doge has an infinite supply, has like 150 billion or something like that of circulating tokens. Which, if you guys understand tokenomics, basically the if a token has a hard cap supply like Bitcoin, like say 21 million, and that's it, that's all that can ever exist. Usually the lower the amount of tokens in existence, meaning there's nothing that can be created above and beyond that, usually that's very bullish for the cryptocurrency. It usually means a lot of upsides. So, but we saw something like Dogecoin that has probably too many tokens go from basically a tenth of a penny all the way up to 75 cents. So that's nearly, I think, like a 750x. I'm not going to get too deep into it in this video, but what I will tell you guys is the last time that the Fed cut rates, we did see a major sell-off. Of course, this was a pandemic. It was a black swan event, but the Fed cut rates and we saw a sell-off, and then crypto took off on its bull run to new all-time highs. So I don't think we're going to see something similar this time around, but anything's possible, okay? But the point I want to make here is we didn't actually see the most explosive part of the bull run for crypto until the Fed cut rates, and they haven't cut rates yet. So it's supposed to be next month. All right, so LTCN, you can see this thing is moving up a little bit. The shade on the histogram is turning more bullish. We're getting the potential golden cross on the RSI here. So basically the price is just wedged in between this trend line and this resistance here. We're still looking for a break of this downtrend line, so still unfortunately stuck in the bear zone. The support is still down here at $11, and you have, of course, this 13 to 15 resistance, and then 25 to 27, and then the 54 all the way up there at the swing high. Above and beyond that, it's the next levels would be about 75 to 100 to 135. So if for whatever reason it does explode from the current price up to, the 20s, 30s, 40s, something like that, we could be looking at anywhere from 90% back to the swing high. Could be as high as 267, 265%, somewhere in there. It's mostly flat, as you guys can see on Grayscale on the day. The only one that was up massively was actually GBAT, which is interesting, but that one has been getting beat down quite a bit. So BCHG, similar story here, except we're kind of getting wedged in between support and these EMAs. So it's what I consider to be a squeeze zone, okay? And there is a gap right here, so presumably it goes up, but we'll just have to wait and see on that one. So support currently sitting roughly about 5.5 to could be as far out as $7. And again, that timing lines up with right around the end of the year, which Bitcoin should be going up to new all-time highs by then. That's usually what happens every cycle. So 1030 to 1260, and then you have 18 to roughly about 20, and then you have 24 up there at the wick highs. Once it gets above and beyond that level, we can talk about it. We just got to get there first. So 80%, 184%, and then roughly about 240% respectively on the gain side. HZEN, so it's really holding the support. That's good. The support here is 250 to 290. We're in a falling wedge. That's a bullish pattern. The target is the top of the wedge. That's roughly about 1050 per share. I keep forgetting these are actually shares, not tokens. I'm used to being in the native space. But anyways, regardless, so we have 380 to 420 up here at resistance, roughly about $6.90 to $8, and then of course the wedge high up there, so 10.5. So the moves here could be, let's see, 196%, and then you have as much as 280%, and of course we have another resistance up here between 1130 to about let's see, 12, I'd say about 12 and a quarter, but of course we got to get past that swing high to get there. ETCG, so we're holding above support here. So the current support is 870 to roughly about $10. I'd be looking at this red box right here as potential targets. So roughly about 13 to 16. And then you have 1770 to roughly about $20. So the measure moves here roughly about 56% and 98%. ETH, we also have a gap on this one as well. So usually, as we've told you countless times on this channel, the gaps, generally speaking, do like to get filled. It's at nearly any different instrument or stock that I've looked at, that's usually always the case. Usually when there's a gap, like 95% of the time they get filled. So support would be down here at 1860 still, because again, we're stuck in between this line and this resistance as kind of we're basically wedged in here. We're waiting to see what direction this thing's going to take. And there's also the EMAs in this red box here. So then you have the resistance up here at 23 and a quarter and 28 and a half, 36 all the way up there at the swing highs. So from current price, you'd be looking at roughly about, 29% and then 65% respectively. If it gets back down to the white line, which is possible, 52% and then 93% respectively. So Phil G, this one is actually back above the resistance zone here, but again, we need to see a close in the week. So if I actually pop down here to the daily time frame, we can see if we've had a close above this zone or not. We have actually had one above this zone right here today, as a matter of fact. So that's good and great and all, but again, I would need to see a weekly close above this level to say, okay, we're back here as support again. You guys can decide for yourself whether you think this is a valid support zone that will hold or not, but this is going to be roughly about 36, 37, all the way up to 40, somewhere in there. Below that area, roughly about 5.5 to 1160. And then the all-time highs up here is $395, or we'll just round it up and say 400. So from this current possible flip zone we're looking at here, 930%. And then from that lower support, assuming something bad happens, let's hope that's not the case, roughly about 10,900%. So I know that sounds crazy, but when you get into the bear market lows and it does some crazy move like that, everybody thinks the gains are coming when they get into the lows, but they don't really know how far it's going to go. And then most people, they kind of underestimate it, and they tend to get out early, and then things just usually go way further than they expect. That's been my experience. And then you're like, holy crap, dude. Like, I didn't think this token or whatever this was going to do like 100x or a 300x or even a 50x. It comes as a shock, right? Most people don't expect it. They're kind of really thrown off guard when something like that happens. But that's markets, markets, people that run the market, so to speak, like the whales, institutions, position traders, they do what they do, and it messes with people's emotions and psychology and stuff. That's kind of how the markets are really set up by the smart money, so to speak. So 440 to 520 at support here on GBAT. Did have a nice little pop off that support. So 760 to 1030 at resistance there, and then 32 all the way up there at the highs. So going from support to that resistance there, roughly about 103% and then 530% respectively, as a potential move to the upside. And then this white line down here is going to be the next level of support. So roughly about that 250 area. We have not actually come back to that area, so that's good. Good for the bulls, So GLIV, we're holding support here at roughly about 1170 to about 15. And then you have your highs up there at 80. Keep in mind, even though I'm telling you guys what the current all-time high is or the swing high, just understand that if the crypto bull market is going to be even half of as bullish as I think it is, especially going into Fed rate cuts, whether there's a drop immediately or not, I think that there's a pretty good chance that a lot of these could go much higher than the previous all-time highs or the swing highs. I'm not saying those are a guarantee, okay? I just give it, in my mind, it's a higher probability scenario than these things just going up to the previous swing high or all-time high and then just dumping back down to the floor. So 471% move on that. G-Link, it's slowly pushing off the support, so we know that this is probably going to hold. So 38 to 45. And when I say probably, there's a chance it could go lower. Okay. Like I told you guys before, for every trade, there's a counter trade. Okay. Just understand. That's the way the markets work like that. Okay. They go up in waves, they go down in waves. So 66 to 84 at the resistance up there. And then roughly about 220 is going to be the highs. So I'll just give you guys a measurement from the current price, since a lot of you guys are probably sitting on this position in the current price, roughly about 54% to 300% move here. GSOL, this thing is just chopping sideways. I mean, I'm actually quite impressed that it's held up for this long. I'm really shocked, truthfully. So there's a chance it could kind of slowly bleed down into the support until maybe eventually a Solana ETF gets approved. I'm not saying that's going to happen. It could happen. It may not happen. We don't know. Personally, once again, I would not buy any Solana right now because I still think it's expensive compared to pretty much all of these other trusts. That's just me, though. So 167 to 204 at the lower support. You have roughly about 300 to 350 at the current support, and then the highs up here at 580. Just to give you guys the measure move from the current price to the highs up here, roughly about 40%. And then if it does kind of slowly bleed back down here, which is possible, it could happen, 88% move. Of course, that depends entirely on the Fed and like jobs reports and, you know, all these other news catalysts, and if the economy can hold up strong throughout the Fed rate cuts. So GXLM, slowly getting down below this white line. I'll just give you guys support because I don't really know what's going to happen here. So 470 to $12 at that lower support. The current white line is 20. I'd be looking for potentially, I would say probably somewhere around this resistance up here. So 53 to $59 and then $70. Of course, I look for bigger swings on crypto. I'm not necessarily looking for something small when it comes to the actual, like, you know, we're getting ready to do the real thing, the actual parabolic bull run where altcoins pop off minimum 10, 20x. But to each their own, you know, if you want to scalp or slowly scale out, that's entirely up to you. So 168% move here, 192%, and then 250% respectively. Mana, so getting a nice little bounce on Mana. It does appear that this white line does want to hold. Of course, we still need to see a weekly close above the white line, so it's coming up to the apex of this move. Oh wait, never mind. We actually did get a close, so I didn't see this little flat bar here is actually the current candle. So we got to break out of this downtrend line. I don't know that it necessarily goes parabolic immediately. Like I said, I kind of suspect the bigger moves in crypto are not going to happen until after the Fed starts cutting rates. So maybe it chops around a little bit, kind of slowly goes up a little bit, and then we see some kind of crazy melt up. That could happen. So current support is roughly about $11. You have roughly about 1770 to 2020 as resistance, and then the highs up there roughly about $70. So you got about 59% move and then roughly about 470% move respectively on Mana. Zcash, we are still holding the support. This is a very heavily traded zone, so I suspect we're probably just going to stay around here until eventually the altcoin season happens. So current price, 430 to roughly about 515. Support below that, roughly about 315. And then above that, you have roughly about 810 to, I'd say roughly about maybe 970 as resistance, and then 10 and a quarter all the way up at the highs up there. So assuming this support level holds, you'd be looking at roughly about 76%, 115%, 127% respectively. And then below that, if it comes back down to the white line, you'd be looking at roughly about 162%, 215%, and 237% respectively. So anyways, hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.